topic. Okay, duty of doctor due to poisoning in living case. So these are the 8 duties of doctor. So the first one is medical and then legal duty. And the second is resuscitative measure. And the next one is removal of unabsorbed poison and then absorbed poison. And the next one is symptomatic treatment and then follow up in necessary cases. Duties of doctor includes history checking. History checking from the patient himself or herself and then the family members or close friends, and then after that physical examination, investigation, and then treatment and management of the patient. So this is the medical duty of the doctor. So the first one is history. So remember the mnemonic. So M stands for medicine or material. A stands for amount. T stands for time of exposure, time when did he or she took it. So E stands for emesis. So after taking the poison, whether there was presence of vomiting or not. So and R stands for reason. What was the reason? And S stands for symptoms. So symptoms that are seen after ingestion of poison. So these are the necessary criteria you should include on history tracking. And the second one is clinical signs. So the first one is vital sign. You have to take the vital sign. Vital sign includes taking temperature, pulse pressure, blood pressure, and then respiratory rate. Ocular sign. So in ocular sign, look at the nature of the pupils. So whether the pupil is dilated or congested, if there is any congestion of the conjunctiva, if there is any presence of nystagmus, diplopia, so you have to note it down. Oral sign, so look at the oral cavity. If there is any color changes, okay, any presence of burning sign, okay, and then hypersalivation is present or not, you have to look that also and note it down. And then the color changes of teeth and gum line. If there is any, you have to note it down. So ear sign includes if there is any, if the patient complains of if any tinnitus, buzzing or hissing sound, then you have to include it. And the next one is skin. So look for the any skin rashes, any color changes on the skin area, okay, and any injection mark. Same wise, urine color. Look at the urine color, and if there is any color changes, you have to mention it. Same as look for the muscle rigidity and then fasciculation. So these are the clinical signs you have to look at. Okay, and for the lab investigation, you have to say blood, urine, and then stomach content. So these are the medical duty of a doctor in case of poisoning. Second one is legal duty. So legal duty means you have to inform the police officer regarding the case and then help the police officer in determining not only the manner but also the cause and type of poisoning by collecting and preserving vomit, urine, cloth, and blood for toxicological and then chemical analysis. Okay, so this is the first medical and then legal duty. And the second one is resuscitative measure, and it includes A, B, C, D. So A stands for airway. So if there is any presence of vomit or fourth, then you have to clear the airway using the suction machine. Okay, first one is clear the airway, and the second one is breathing. And the second one is breathing. Okay, so check the breathing, and if in necessary cases, you have to give the oxygen through facial marks. And the C stands for circulation. So open the IV line for giving. Everybody, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So C stands for circulation. So you have to open the IV line, okay? So and then you have to give the IV fluids. And D stands for disability or there's something. There is something problem in the connection. Can you everyone, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Everybody, is the audio clear?
हजुर म्याम राम्रो सुनिरहेछ
There is something wrong here. Okay. Okay, now next one is disability, or this is called consciousness level of a person. So this is done by using ABPU score or Glasgow Coma scale. So A stands for alert, V respond to voice, P stands for response to pain, and then U stands for unresponsive or unconscious. Okay, and then Glasgow Coma scale. So for Glasgow Coma scale, so this is how Glasgow Coma scale is done. Okay. So GCS 15, that is the best response. So comatose person, GCS 8 or below 8, and unresponsive is GCS is below or equal to 3. So in comatose persons, okay, when the cause of coma is not known, then you have to give a combination of 3 medicine, okay, and this is called coma cocktail. And the medicine are dextrose, naloxone, and then thiamine. So these are the coma cocktail medicines. Okay, given in comatose person when the cause of the coma is not known. Next one, removal of unabsorbed poison. So it depends on the route of administration of the poison. So inhalation, inhaled poison. So the person or the patient should be removed to the fresh air, okay, and the airway should be clear. And then in necessary case, you have to give oxygen through tight fitting facial masks. In injected form, you have to apply the tourniquet above the injection mark, and this will slow down the absorption of the poison. And the next one is in the contact form. So first one is you have to remove the cloth and then wash the contact area or the part of the body using soap and water, plain water. And the next one, most common route, ingested route. So in ingested route, first you have to do is to induce vomiting. So inducing vomiting is done either by stimulating the posterior pharyngeal wall. So either you can stimulate the posterior pharyngeal wall, or you can give ipecac syrup. So 30 ml, that is the adult dose, and then 50 ml, that is the pediatric dose. And the contraindication of this inducing vomiting. So it should be avoided in case of advanced pregnancy and severe lung or heart diseases, and in case of CNS stimulated poison. So inducing vomiting should be avoided in such cases. Okay. Now next one is gastric lavage, or this one is also called stomach wash. And it should be done within 6 hours of ingestion of the poison. So you can see on the picture, that is the Boas tube. And it consists of 3 parts. So the first one is funnel end part. So this is the funnel end part. And this is the suction valve to pump out the stomach content. And this part is the round end part. And it has a opening on the lateral side. Okay. And you can see a mark here, a black mark here on the Boas tube. Okay. So the distance from the round end part to this mark is 50 centimeters. So at a 50 centimeter from the round end, a marking is made on the Boas tube. So the first one is that you have to do the correct the position of the patient. So the position of the patient should be in Trendelenburg position. That means the level of the mouth should be lower the level of the larynx. So this will prevent aspiration. Okay. First one is Trendelenburg position, and the person or the patient should be on left lateral decubitus position. So this means it will prevent the poison to pass through the pylorus of the stomach. Okay. And once the person is kept on the correct position, you have to do it. So the round end of the tube is lubricated using the local anesthesia, and it should be slowly passed from mouth to the stomach up to the mark of 50 centimeter. So you should only pass up to the mark of 50 centimeter. So you can see on the picture. So my question is, why only we should introduce up to the mark of 50 centimeter? Why not 60 or 70 centimeter? Anyone? Anyone has an answer? Anyone? Why we have to introduce only up to the 50 centimeter marking? Anybody has any answer? Janice Odigari, any answer? Why only up to the mark of 50 centimeter?
No, ma'am.
Why only 50 centimeter?
No idea, ma'am.
Okay. So the length of the esophagus is 25 centimeter. And the length of the stomach is 25 centimeters. So 25 plus 25 equals to 50 centimeters. So the tube will be exactly on the stomach. Okay, that is the reason. Now once the tube is inserted into the stomach, you have to do each conformation. So this is the left lateral decubitus position. Okay, you can see here gastric lavage tube. Next one is to do the conformation. So how the conformation is done? So the stethoscope is first placed on the epigastric region, and at the same time, air is pushed from the syringe into the tube from the funnel end part. Okay, so you keep the stethoscope on the epigastric region and same time push the air from the syringe into the tube. So if you hear bubbling sound during auscultation, then that means the tube is in the stomach. But if you hear the hissing sound, or if there is continuous cough reflex present in the consciousness patient, then that means the tube has entered towards the airway tract. Okay, this is how you have to do the conformation of the tube. All right. Bubbling sound, that means the tube is in the stomach. Hissing sound, that means it has entered towards the airway tract. Now my next question is, let's say if you are unable to differentiate bubbling sound and hissing sound, so what steps you are going to take next to confirm the conformation of the tube? Anyone? Anyone has any answer? Anisha, ja. Unmute yourself and tell me the answer. Anisha, ja. Anisha? Jurika Shrestha? Jurika Shrestha?
Yes, ma'am.
So if you are unable to differentiate bubbling sound from hissing sound, so how can you confirm? What step you are going to take to confirm the position of the tube?
Ma'am, I do.
Ang Dorma Sherpa? Do you know the answer? So next step you can do is to do the chest X-ray of the patient. That is simple, okay? If you are unable to differentiate bubbling and hissing sound, then do the chest X-ray. Now once the gastric lavage position is confirmed, then you have to do the stomach wash using warm water. Either you can use warm water or potassium permanganate or sodium bicarbonate or tannic acid or sodium iodide or potassium iodide or saline. So you can use any solution, okay? And the first stomach content should be always preserved for chemical and toxicological analysis. Okay, and then repeat the procedure, the stomach wash procedure until and unless the returning fluid, so the fluid that you have introduced into the tube should be clear, odorless, and of same nature as it was introduced in the first place. So simultaneously you have to look the face of the patient also for any discomfort. Okay, so repeat the procedure, same stomach wash procedure until and unless the fluid is clear, odorless, and then of same nature. So this is how the stomach wash or gastric lavage is done. And the contraindication, absolute contraindication, should not be done in corrosive poison cases except in carbolic acid. And the reason is carbolic acid causes the stomach wall to become hard and leathery. So the chances of perforation in carbolic acid is very less. So stomach wash can be done in carbolic acid poisoning. So relative contraindication of the stomach wash are convulsion patient, a history or medical history of gastrointestinal tract disease or esophageal varices, and then comatose patient and volatile poisoning cases. So you should be done but with carefully, and it should be done by experienced doctor only, okay? So antidote. Next one is antidote. So there are 5 types of antidote. So the first one is mechanical or physical antidote. And this mechanical or physical antidote, it will neutralize poison by preventing their absorption. Okay, so this physical antidote will act as a barrier between the stomach wall and poison. Okay, and this physical antidote is further classified into 3 types. So the demulcent, you can see the example. Okay, egg, white, and starch. So these are some of the example of demulcent. Diluents, water is an example. And the next one is, last one is adsorbent. And example includes activated charcoal. This is the activated charcoal. Okay, black color. So it should be mixed with water. And the dose, adult dose is 50 to 100 mg, whereas in the pediatric it is 15 to 30 mg. So once the gastric lavage is done, activated charcoal are introduced into the stomach, and the reason is this activated charcoal will further absorb the unabsorbed poison. Okay, so they are left into the stomach for absorption of the poison. The second one is chemical antidote. So chemical antidote neutralize poison chemically in GI tract. And these are some of the example of chemical antidote. You can see here potassium permanganate, tannic acid, albumin, common salt, dialyzed iron, magnesium hydroxide, iodine, and freshly prepared hydrated ferric acid. So these are some of the example of chemical antidote. Chemically neutralize poison. Third one is universal antidote. And universal antidote is a composition of 2 parts of activated charcoal and 1 part of magnesium oxide and tannic acid. Okay, And the next one is pharmacological or physiological antidote. And this pharmacological or physiological antidote will counteract the action of poison. Okay, that is the definition of pharmacological antidote. Counteract the action of poison. And it should be only given when the diagnosis of poisoning is confirmed. Okay, if you are sure about the poison, then you can give physiological antidote. So some of the example includes, in case of organophosphorus poisoning, the antidote are atropine and trialidoxime. In case of opium, naloxone is the antidote. And in case of paracetamol poisoning, and acetylcysteine, that is the physiological antidote. And in case of methyl alcohol, ethyl alcohol is the antidote. And the next one is chelating agents. And chelating agents are mostly given in heavy metal poisoning. So chelating agents are chemicals which attract heavy metal poison on its surface and result in the formation of complex soluble molecules. So chelating agent is a chemical and it will attract the metal poison into its surface and form a complex soluble molecules which is non-toxic in nature. Okay, and the feature of ideal chelating agents includes, so it should be highly soluble in water and lipid. And the second feature is complex form should be non-toxic in nature. Okay, and the third one is it should be highly affinity for toxic metals. So the binding capacity of this chelating agent should be high to the toxic metals. And good absorption from gastrointestinal tract, it should be less toxic and it should be rapidly eliminated from the kidney. Or that means it should rapidly eliminate toxic matter from the kidney or urine. So these are the feature of ideal chelating agents. And this is mostly used in heavy metal poisoning. These are the chelating agents. British anti-Lewisite, first one, mostly used in mercury poisoning, arsenic poisoning, and then lead poisoning. Okay. Second one is ethylene diamine tetraacetic acid, mostly used in lead poisoning, mercury, and then copper poisoning. And the third one is penicillamine, and used in lead, copper, and mercury poisoning. And the last one is desferrioxamine, and used in acute iron poisoning. So these are the 4 different types of chelating agents used in different heavy metal poisoning. This is the, we are not going to discuss this in more detail. And the other procedure of removing unabsorbed poison includes whole bowel irrigation. So irrigation from mouth to the anus, to the back passage, whole bowel irrigation, another method. And the next one is endoscopic or surgical removal of the poison. And the last one is purging. Purging means excretion or evacuation of the poison. Next one is removal of absorbed poison. So these are the method, some of the method of removal of absorbed poison. So the first one is increase renal excretion by giving IV fluids. Okay, force alkaline diuretics means giving diuretics medicine. And the next one is hemodialysis. Everybody knows what is hemodialysis, right? And the next one is peritoneal dialysis. So peritoneum is taken here as a medium. Okay. And the next one is hemoperfusion. So hemoperfusion is a procedure where a large volume of blood is sent through the absorbent solvent, and that solvent, absorbent solvent, will absorb or filter the toxic substance. And diaphoretic means increase sweating. So this is how absorbed poisons are removed. The next one is symptomatic treatment. So in symptomatic treatment, so IV fluid is given to keep the person hydrated. Okay, and in case of nausea and vomiting, you can give antiemetic. And the next one is in case of pain, IV analgesic. And if the patient complains of abdominal pain or cramping, you can give spasmodic. Okay, and the next one is in the case of fit convulsion, you can give IV diazepam. And if IV is not possible, then you can give through rectal route. Okay, and the next one is cold sponging. So if the person complains of hot or there is rise in the temperature of the body of the person, then you can do cold sponging. And in case of hypothermia, you can wrap the body of the patient using warm blankets. So these are some of the symptomatic treatment you should do in case of poisoning. And the next one is follow-up cases. So follow-up cases may be in medicine or in psychiatric unit. Okay. So these are the 6 steps or duty of the doctor in case of poisoning in living cases. This is the assignment for you. So there are 4 questions. Please make the note of these all 4 questions. Okay. So for question number 1 and 2, at least you need to know at least 4 poison that will cause pupil dilatation and then constriction. So this is very important for PBQ question. Okay. So Basanta Regmi, can you unmute yourself? Basanta Regmi.